obviously we mentioned Jay jumped back on the Disney Plus train, and they have a great show coming or out,
Yeah.
releasing regularly. Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Neither Jay or I are completely caught up, but we have had some requests for this in the last few days. We've watched the first few episodes. Jay, what are your first thoughts on Skeleton Crew?
Yeah. So I think it was a couple episodes back. You mentioned it was kind of like a oh my gosh, I'm blanking. A Stranger Things, but in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And I think that's a like 100% accurate way to describe the show. It is very Stranger Things feeling, but just set in the Star Wars universe. I was actually shocked for the first 3 or so minutes, like the opening. The opening went pretty hard. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, okay, like I was not expecting this. But it's a great show. I love it. It has nothing to do so far, nothing to do with like Luke Skywalker or the Death Star or anything like that.
Nope.
You're just following like a group of 4 kids going across the galaxy on their little adventure. So it's good.
Yes. Um, yeah, I think that getting away from that core Skywalker esque world, I think is a smart move on the part of Lucasfilm. Um, I think structuring it in the way they're structuring it, and the reason again I get that kind of strange like we get, and not in the first episode really, but more toward the second episode, we get that the central mystery gets framed out, right? Is that these kids are all from this planet, and then when they accidentally leave, everybody's like, "What are you talking about? What planet are you? That planet's not real. It's a myth." Right? And they're like, we're from there. It's not. We promise. No major spoilers in that. That's the kind of the central framing of the show. Um, you know, and I think it's a good frame for the show. It's both a homecoming adventure, but also the center of their home is the mystery of what is AT-AT really, right? I like that we got suburbs. I was glad I wanted Star Wars suburbs. We get all these like exotic locales in Star Wars, but you've never seen suburbs. But in that first episode, you're like, this is some straight up 80s style,
Yeah.
like ride your bike down the road. Do, do,
Yeah.
do, do, do. Um, Everybody's falling in love with Neil,
Hmm.
which is the little not Ortolan but elephant dude.
Yeah. Okay.
He's so like well meaning. Like you want to root for Neil.
Yeah. He's definitely very cute. Yeah, for those of you that don't know, he's kind of like a little like I don't God, I'm just gonna get canceled today. He's kind of like a little like Dumbo character, you know. He has like the elephant face, and he's like kind of cute and adorable, and he's a kid. Like he's again like Stranger Things. Like he's battling with like trying to like be courageous, trying to be a good friend, but also not
he's
die.
he's the super nerdy one too, because he's like,
Yeah.
let's do the test. We got to do good on the test so we can get a good job, and we're gonna do great. And his best friend Wim is the like, I dream of adventure and the Jedi kind of kid, right? Um,
I'm gonna miss the test and
yeah,
everything.
screw the test. I want to go find this Jedi temple, and
Oh God,
you
yeah.
know, I like that the droid is named Smee. It's SM-33, and I was like, he's Smee. We're straight up. We're Disneying this up. Good job, Disney. And he's got a peg leg. Um,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on Jude Law?
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, obviously, I knew that he was in it, and then they kind of mislead you a little bit. I don't want to give anything away, but yeah, I think it's a great, fantastic character. There's definitely a lot going on there. He's kind of the character of like, can we trust him? Should we trust him? No, you can't trust him. Yes, you can trust him. Like, kind of back and forth. Um, so I don't know. I definitely liked him, or I like him so far, I guess I should say, because I think he adds that like extra kind of dynamic to the group.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but Yeah, and I think you are like a huge Jude Law fan, right?
I am a big fan of Jude Law. He's been in a bunch of the stuff that I consider some of my favorite movies of all time. If you haven't watched it, one of the greatest sci-fi movies of all time is a movie called Gattaca. Right? It was this very indie, like nobody saw it sci-fi movie from the 90s. It's him, Ethan Hawke, and Uma Thurman are all in it, right? And it is one of the like most slow burn, tense sci-fi movies. And again, one of the best sci-fi movies I think has probably ever been made. It's in my top 10 for sure. Um, and he's great in that. I can't think of many things I've seen with Jude Law that I don't think he did well in. Even those really bad Harry Potter like spin-off movies, right? Which went completely off the fucking rails, right? But he was good as Dumbledore,
Yeah.
right? Like he was a solid Dumbledore, right?
Yeah.
Um, somebody who's the only actor to be involved in Marvel, Star Wars, and Harry Potter. Star Wars and Harry Potter. I'm trying to think of what he was in Marvel.
He was in Miss Marvel. He was the
Did I
I
miss
can't
that?
green guy. I can't
Oh,
think
he
of
was in Captain Marvel. You're right.
yeah,
Jesus, how did I forget about that?
what are they called? The
Dude, Disney's been paying him for a while.
Kree?
Yeah, he's a Kree. He's the one that
Kree.
like is working with um um uh yeah, dude. Somebody's saying Jude Law on Closer. Yeah, like I said, I mean, I am a big fan of Jude Law's. Again, I haven't seen him. He was really good in Captain Marvel. Yeah, he was Marvel. Thank you, chat. I appreciate that. I don't know why I forgot about that movie. Like it's an amazing, it's a good movie. Yeah, get paid, Jude. You know. But yeah, overall, I said I haven't watched this week's episode of Skeleton Crew because it came out literally last night. And my wife and I are still catching up. Well, we're gonna stay on Skeleton Crew. Again, where Star Wars has been very hit and miss on Disney Plus, right? Very hit and miss. I
What? Everything Star Wars is fantastic.
yeah. Um,
I love watching a TV show about the worst Jedi to ever live. That's a great TV show.
oh dang. Yeah. I think Skeleton Crew's kind of knocking it out of the park. I really hope. Here's my fear. Still, can they stick the landing?
I don't know. It's going good now. Who's directing this one?
John Watts, and so that's the other thing. So John Watts, who did all of the Spider-Man home movies, right, for Disney,
Yeah.
right, for Marvel and Sony. So he did Spider-Man: Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home. He did all three of those films. He was the director, and he has done a pretty good job with this. I think Disney decided to go showrunners has been good. I think this is probably a step in the right direction. And again, I like what you brought up right at the beginning for those that came in late, which is there's no Skywalkers, there's no Solos. We're not seeing, it's not the Empire versus the Republic. You see two X-Wings for like 15 seconds. Like that's the extent of it. You know what I mean?
And the thing, I don't know. The thing that I loved about that is that the kids, they're like, I don't know, middle school kids, open fire on the X-wing.
Pew 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 pew.
Oh God.
Um,
Yeah.
I at some point we may have to do like a theory crafting before the end of the series to see if we figure out how this is gonna go out. Again, I don't want to give away spoilers for those that haven't watched it yet. There's a couple so there's the primary mystery, which I will give away, which is the kids come from this world called At-Aten. And once they get out of this barrier, they get to the thing and they find out that nobody else thinks that At-Aten is real. Right?
It's like a myth.
It's like a myth. Like El Dorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like, what are you talking about? And they get captured. They run into Jude Law, and he rescues them out of the prison. The secondary mystery is kind of who is Jude Law,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
He apparently has force abilities, but he doesn't do much with them yet, right?
And I guess like I will say, so the kids are like, "Oh, you're a Jedi. You're a Jedi. You're a Jedi." And Jude Law goes with it. And then a little bit later, they're like, "We thought you said you were a Jedi." And he was like, "I never said that." And you're kind of like, "Oh God, like,
Yeah, Sutton's
uh,
sketchy. Chat's like sketchy force user and a bunch of kids. What could go wrong? You're not wrong. Like that's kind of what makes it good, you know. Yeah. There's a point in I think episode 4, right? One of my favorite lines from him is him and Smear are about to get captured, right? And he just goes down. He's just like, "Fuck it, just shoot me."
Yeah.
He's like, "Just shoot me. I don't care." But then he does come through. Like he's like, "Hey, I fixed it. Like you kids ran off, and then I got capped, but I fixed it, right?"
Yep.
And then Neil kind of gets a shining moment there, and then so does he. Like there's some good interplay here.
Yeah.
All he does is future. Yeah, and again, I'm really I think there's a mystery about him. I think he does have force abilities, and age-wise, if you make the character the same age Jude Law is in real life, and this show takes place in roughly the same time frame as The Mandalorian, so about 5 years after Return of the Jedi, right? Which means he would have been a young adult during Order 66. Okay. So
he could have been
like a trainee, like a Padawan.
He could have been a youngling, still like at the Jedi Temple, waiting for like a master to come get him.
Yeah.
For training. And I mean, like it kind of. So that's like the really interesting mystery here because they 100% could do that. They could be like, yes, like he started his training, Order 66 broke out, he like ran off, right? Obviously, that makes sense. He never finished his training because in the series, you kind of see him it does appear like he does have force abilities, but he's not like a master.
No.
Like he stumbles. So it's like, okay, maybe he never finished his training, but then also like and I will say he's also very knowledgeable of the Force. Like he definitely like tells the kids like, "Oh, a Jedi wouldn't say that." Blah blah blah. But then he could also be a bad guy. That's kind of just along for the ride to see if El Dorado, if you will, is true. So, I don't know.
Some of the chat's asking if Force users age slower than usual. So there's like two answers to that question. There's the old EU answer, which is yes, but, and then there is the there is the George Lucas answer, which is the Force does what we need it to do. That's literally like the answer. There isn't like a really good, like, if you haven't watched the Freddie Prinze Jr. rant about Star Wars, you should watch that. He actually breaks it down really well, right? And it was an interview he did after he did Star Wars Rebels, right? So in case you guys didn't know, Freddie Prinze Jr. is involved in the Star Wars universe, right? And he breaks it down really well on how Dave Filoni, who's basically George's apprentice, and obviously Dave Filoni with Jon Favreau runs a lot of this now, and Dave Filoni is the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm. He explains really well how Dave explained it to him, right? And the thing that they're clear about it is that the Force is not like video games. It's not like you level up in the Force, right? It's much more amorphous than that. So again, it's difficult to say, if that makes sense. right?
think my favorite George Lucas quote of all time about Star Wars is that there's no bras in outer space.
Yeah, he did say that. He told that to Carrie Fisher.
Yeah. Oh god.
Um, and then George invented metachlorians. So, and there's metachlorian counts. And so maybe Jude Law just has a low metachlorian count. Again,
I don't know.
I don't know. And again, they haven't been super clear about that. And again, I think that's by design. I think as the show goes on, they're going to kind of break that out more. I think by the end of this, I don't know if this is going to get a season 2. I don't know if they intended to have a season 2. I have no idea. Disney tends to make these decisions kind of on the fly these days. So I imagine by the end of the season, which I think we got, 3 more episodes left? Let's take a look. How many more episodes? No, I don't care about Yellowstone. Stop guessing. 2 more. 2 more after this.
Ooh, guess what?
We'll know in a couple of weeks.
There was a lot of discussion today. There's a lot of articles out that got posted today. It says the show's creators say that they have plans for a second season and have plans to kind of follow the kids as they grow up, very much like Stranger Things.
Yep, they had plans for Acolyte season 2. They do this. They literally just did this with Agatha, right? So if you guys didn't know, when they did the Agatha show, originally they marketed it as a limited series. This is a 1 season and done. Well, what they found with Agatha is the viewership kept going up and up and up and up and up as they went, right? Agatha was a success as far as Disney Plus streaming shows. So they just submitted it for consideration to the Emmys. So for those that don't know, each of the studios, when they want Emmy nominations or Oscar nominations, they submit packages to each of the award bodies and say, this is how we want you to review this. They submitted it not as a limited series, right, which is one category for the Emmys, but as a continuous series. So it's looking like while they haven't announced it, they're going to do a season 2, even though they weren't going to originally. So if Skeleton Crew's numbers do well, they might come back and do a season 2. And I think it's a good idea. If you've got something good, stick with it. But Disney, can you do me a favor? Can we not wait 3 years between seasons? And actually, sorry, this goes out to all the streamers. Of all the things I miss about network television, right? Y'all would roll a 22 episode season over the course of the fall, winter, and spring, cut for summer, and in the fall, 3 months later, I would get another season. 3 months. 3 months. I'm tired of waiting 2 years between seasons of television. Right? Aren't you?
Yeah, I am, but I'm kind of wondering if like all the writer strikes like kind of have something to do with that.
They did, but I think we're past it now.
Okay.
We should be past
For
it now.
now.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later in the show because we're going to talk about, stuff that's coming in 2025, and a lot of what's coming in 2025 was stuff that was supposed to come out in 2024 but didn't because of the writers and actors strikes. So, anyway, if you watch this later, have you watched Skeleton Crew? Do you like it? Are you enjoying it? Leave us a comment down in the thing below and tell us what you think.